Helen.
I'm Matt.
And we are the campaign-led theatre company,
Lung.
We make verbatim theatre. So what that means is we work with real people and we use their real voices by interviewing them to tell their real life stories.
The mission statement of the company is to platform hidden voices and make them heard nationally.
And in this video, we're going to be telling you a bit about the different ways we use verbatim theatre, what verbatim theatre is, and the exercises that you can use to make your own verbatim work for radio. So verbatim theatre, in its simplest form, means that the words of the script have been said by somebody. So the way we use verbatim theatre is that we will interview somebody with a microphone or sometimes even just our mobile phones, and we will then transcribe the interviews that we've done and we'll use those words to form the basis of the scripts that we write.
But like Helen's saying, like something that someone has said is the remit and then everything else is up for grabs. So we're just going to very quickly just talk you through some of the practitioners and some of the ways that we make verbatim work.
So there's a practitioner called Aleki Blythe who's written lots of different verbatim plays. She uses a technique called recorded delivery. So she will interview people and then she will actually create the script as an audio file. So she'll edit all of the different audio that she's got on her computer, and then actors will listen to that audio through headphones and they will literally repeat back the words that they hear as they hear them. So it's still edited and constructed by her. She's still written the piece, but the voices of the people that she's interviewed really inform the voices that the actors then perform through.
Some brilliant Aleki Blythe plays are The Girlfriend Experience, Come Out Eli, and one of her most famous pieces, London Road, which is a verbatim musical. So check it out.
You can type into YouTube London Road Aleki Blythe and there's a video, or you can rent it, I think, from Amazon if you're feeling so inclined.
Type of verbatim plays are the Tricycle Tribunal plays. These were staged at the Tricycle Theatre in Kilburn in London by director Nick Kent and Guardian journalist Richard Norton Taylor. These volumes of plays looked at collecting evidence that was given at infamous tribunals or court cases and then staging them for an evening of theatre. It was used as a way of using theatre as a tool to educate audiences on the history of a trial, but inviting them to make up their own minds. Some brilliant Tricycle Tribunal plays include The Colour of Justice, which looked at the case of Stephen Lawrence, Bloody Sunday, and Nuremberg. So check them out.
And the most recent tribunal play in the sequence was written by Matt and co-written by Richard Norton Taylor, sorry to throw you under the bus, and it's called Chilcot, and you'll probably be familiar with it because it was about the Chilcot Inquiry. It's our most recent tribunal play, and it was about the inquiry into the war in Iraq. If you want to watch any of these, the Colour of Justice, which was the Stephen Lawrence inquiry, there are clips of it again on YouTube, so if you just type in the Colour of Justice tribunal plays, it will come up and you can watch a clip of how that looked. It's very realistic, and like Matt says, it's literally taken from the transcripts of the trials. So all those trials and transcripts are available online, and again, it's another way in which you can access them and make your own work.
Another verbatim theatre company is Deviate, which is a physical theatre company. One of the criticisms of verbatim theatre is that it's a lot of talking and it might be quite dry. So what Deviate do is they kind of push against this by using recorded interviews from the people that they've met, and they play it over creating physical responses to that. They also place the voice of the interviewer, the person asking the questions, into the piece as well. So you see live on stage the interviewee responding to the questions that they were asked, but in a whole new context.
Again, if you type in DV8, so literally the letters DV and the number 8 into YouTube, there's lots of clips of their work and you can see the different ways in which they use verbatim and mix that with physical theatre. It's not necessarily, it's a very stage-based way that they do their work, but something that might be interesting for audio and for radio is the way that they intersect the real life voices of the people that they've interviewed, or clips from the news, real footage of real people speaking, with the actor's own interpretation of that work. So they will have an actor performing the interview, and they will also have clips of the real original interview, which is a very interesting kind of difference to hear The Verbatim theatre company is called Breach. They're very contemporary and they use what they call post-verbatim theatre. And what that means is they're very loose with what the form verbatim means. So they will often intersect verbatim monologues or transcripts of trials, but they will intersect it with real written scenes that they've just crafted from scratch. And it's a way that you can sort of free up that very prescriptive term verbatim.
They put themselves into the work as well, so and they interrogate their role within that. So you can see on their play The Beanfield, they read some of the emails that they sent to the people that they are interviewing, and also they kind of push the form in using multimedia and videos and things that they've collected when they've been conducting their research.
And again, you can watch some of their work. Their play It's True, It's True, It's True was recently made by the BBC, and that's available online, so we'll make sure that in your work packs there's a link to that. I'll tell you a bit about the different companies that use verbatim theatre, and the reason for that is to show what a broad range of forms verbatim can take. And something that we find with different people that we work with is even if your final product, the final thing that you write, isn't strictly verbatim, the initial concept of doing a verbatim exercise, like interviewing someone and transcribing that interview, or transcribing a news headline article that you can find on YouTube, can be a really fantastic stimulus and route into making a script.
So Lung are first and foremost a socially engaged theatre company. We use verbatim because it's the best way that we can find to engage with people and make sure that everyone has a touchstone to the project. We sometimes find that with some of the people that we're working with, some of them do want to go on a long creative process, but some people might just want to be interviewed, contribute their story once to something, and then that's it. So verbatim theatre is kind of a great democratic tool that we use in the creative process to make sure that everyone that we speak to has some sort of a voice or some sort of a stake in the project. So whether we're working with football fans in Bradford, or the Focus E15 housing campaign in Stratford in London, or young carers in Salford, everyone that we've worked with for the broad spectrum of people that we've interviewed for those projects will feel like they have a touchstone and a link to the project just by nature of being interviewed for it.
So now we're going to tell you a bit about the different verbatim approaches that you can use to make your radio plays, starting points that you can start right away, right now, because all you really need is a microphone and somebody to talk to. Number 1, pick a topic. It seems really obvious, but it can be a really fantastic starting point, and this can be something really huge like Brexit, or it can be something really small like what you had for dinner last night. Just a starting point of something that you know you want to talk to each interviewer consistently about, so you can get all of the different angles of what they think.
Some of the questions that we ask ourselves when we're picking a new topic to put on stage is, why this play? Like, why do I want to tackle this play? Why now? Like, why does this story need telling now? And why me? Why do I want to be the one to tell this story? Why should I be the one to tell this story? Am I the right person to tell this story?
So when you pick your topic, I'd put it in the middle of a piece of paper, and then I'd make a bit of a spider diagram around it of what within that topic do I want to explore. So if it's something really simple like what I had for dinner last night, then the different strands of that could be, what are the person's favourite food? What is dinner to you? Is it a family event? Is it a sociable event? A different strand could be like, what is the history of cooking within your family? There's sort of different topics within that. If it's something like Brexit, then obviously the spider diagram is going to be substantially bigger, and the subheadings within that are going to be much more detailed.
The second thing is write a project manifesto. Again, this might be something that you just use for you, and it's a really great way of just kind of locking you down and helping you look at what you're trying to achieve with the project. Like, what's the dream goal? What's the dream space? Why are you telling this story? But also writing a project manifesto is something that can be really useful to pass on to the people that you're interviewing, so people know what your intentions are when you're writing a piece.
So with our project manifestos, we, for example, always come up with the strand that we are going to make sure that every interview we do and every interviewee has final sign off of the script. That might be something you want to do, it might not. So that would then mean sharing the words that they've said back with them and making sure they're happy with it before you put it on the radio. But some other people, if they're interviewing, for example, big politicians, might want to write a consent form that person signs, and then actually they don't give them sign off on the final script. So it's a bit up to you what you feel are your goalposts with the project, what's the method you want to approach your different interviewees with, and like Matt says, is it for you or is it for sharing with the people that you interview?
Third one is picking people that you want to interview. So when you've picked your topic, you've written your manifesto, who are the voices that you feel like need to be included? What are the voices that haven't been heard before? What are the voices that we hear all the time? Something that we do with our productions is we're always interested in looking, as well as like people who have lived experience of something, we're always looking as well to interview politicians, civil servants, people who are enacting policy as well. So we show the personal and individual impact that something is having versus the political reasons that something is happening.
And just technical wise, what we've been doing while we're in lockdown is we've been interviewing people over Zoom. So I don't know if you've been using Zoom. I feel like a lot of people have downloaded it for the first time. You can actually record on the Zoom call. There's a little button at the bottom that says record. So again, we'll put this all in your in the pack that we'll give you of how you can download Zoom and how you can use it. But it's a really fantastic way of connecting with people and including people in your writing process, even while we're all in isolation. And like Matt says, you might be writing something that's big and political, or you might just be using verbatim as a stimulus for writing something that's fictional and that's your own. And actually the voices you might want to pick might be people that you know, if it's a lived experience of your own that you're writing about, or it might be people that are in your family, if you're actually just interested in hearing voices. For example, if you're doing a radio play that's about life in lockdown, then you can cast the net really far and wide and just interview people that you know to act as a stimulus for your radio play. Number 4, something that we often do is when we're writing about a real subject that's been in the news is we will go on YouTube and we will look at the news items that were reported at the time. And this sometimes is because we transcribe these up and we put those voices in the script, but more often than not it's because we use the actual sound files as soundscape within the show. So if you're writing for radio, they might make a really good scene transition. The clip of a real life news story that's talking about the thing that you're talking about in your radio play might be a really fantastic way of making the audience remember that this is real and this is real life. Something that you just have to do if you're doing that is to ask the BBC for permission.
Or anyone that you're getting the clip from.
But normally we find people are quite happy for you to use it.
Number 5. How do you pull all of this together? And I think it's about deciding the form that you want the piece to take. So you can, once you've got all of your interviews, you can sit and transcribe them all up and time code when people say different things and then start to pull it together into different characters' voices. The other thing that you could do is go, I want to do an Anarchy Blythe audio version of my play, and you can go on to Audacity or other sound programs and edit the different voices together. And the third thing that you can do is just be really just selective about, you might go, I just want to tell this person's story and follow that as well. So it's about choosing your characters and choosing the arc of your story.
And something that we often do is when we've transcribed the interviews up, so we don't do the Alecky Blythe thing of using an audio program, we just type them up on Microsoft Word, and then we will extract chunks of different people's interviews and put them alongside each other. So it might end up with a monologue going here and a second person's monologue intersecting it essentially. So it means that within the world of your radio play, you've got different voices of people who weren't in the same room together and weren't in the same interview together, talking about the same thing in between each other and interrupting each other. And that can be particularly interesting if those people have quite a shared experience, but it can also be really interesting if those people have very different viewpoints, because they're often people that wouldn't normally be in the same room together and suddenly you're putting them in the same space in your radio play. Obviously, we make Verbatim Verbatim Theatre, and all the work we make comes from real interviews. But if you're interested in making something fictional, something else you can do is, as long as you've got the permission of the people that you've interviewed, is take those interviews and, based on the stories that they've told you, write fictional scenes. And as long as they're happy for you to do that, it can be a really interesting stimulus, because the dialogue that you're writing and the story that you're telling can feel very authentic and truthful because it's based on something that really did happen.